This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. And if you could, please do me a favor and take a moment and leave a rating and review in whatever podcast player you're listening to this on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, doesn't matter. I would greatly appreciate it, and that feedback really helps get other listeners to the show. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you feel so inclined, you can go to geekleader.com/tip and donate to the show. Thanks so much. All right, Geek Leaders, today I'm honored to have Andrey Kudievskiy on the show from Distillery. He's the CEO and founder there. And we're going to talk a lot about leadership when it comes to managing engineers and technical folks and what they do over at Distillery. Anyway, with all that being said, Andrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
If you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about your background and why is it that you founded a Distillery and what is it that you guys do over there?
Awesome. That's a loaded question. Well, first of all, a little bit about me and my background. I was born in the former USSR country. This is where my accent comes from. And, early in my days, I realized that I have a passion for technology. So I was good at math in school. I actually placed second in the regional math Olympic Games, sharing the place with a third place. So it's like not the first one, but somewhere between second and third, which gave me a pathway to one of the best universities out there. And, computers just became a second nature of me. I sometimes say that the Prince of Persia, the game, is what changed my career and kind of set the trajectory moving forward, because I was so amazed how you sit in front of the computer, you press the buttons, and then there is a character who literally moves and obeys your commands and, jumps and fights with sword. It's like, how is this even possible? It was more than magic to me. And then I realized that, through the zeros and ones, you code things and then you go and implement it. You see how that works. You test it. It's like, wow, this is the new world. It didn't exist. And when I opened this Pandora box, I was just simply amazed. So early passion with technology, going through a technological university, and that basically sets you on a path of what are you going to do next with your life. So for me, the next thing was I was a developer. I tend to think that I was a good one, but I haven't touched code in about 10 years. So at this moment, I'm probably a little bit rusty, if not completely obsolete. But overall, this is what it was before. Somewhere in being a 20 plus years old adult, I was working for a Swedish company who was gracious enough to tell me that I am a good engineer, but now I need to go and find 5 other good engineers like me. They gave me a hell of money at the moment. I thought that this is just unimaginable number, about 40,000 euros at a time. And they said, look, this is what, who you are now, try to be a good manager. So I actually was lucky enough to become a manager by accident, not by choice, by someone giving me money and saying, you go and hire other people and try to manage them. So at the time, this money was, lasted me to find 3, 4, 5 good engineers. And we started a company doing software outsourcing for a Swedish conglomerate doing e-commerce and early mobile websites. So that's how I got into a little bit of a management without even actually wanting this. But then I actually figured out that this is what I love, because at this moment of my life, I was always thinking that you're responsible for actions, and realizing that you're responsible for the actions of other people comes with a better reward, bigger reward, and but also sometimes bigger disappointments. And I honestly did like it a lot, to the extent that I decided to open my own company and just create a venture on my own, going by myself. I borrowed $5,000 from my dad. The entrance level in our business is very small. You just get a good computer, good chair, good desk, and maybe some money to have food on your table for a month. And then you're all set. I started a company, Distillery. At the time, it was called differently, but we started it early with 3 people. All of them were my classmates because, again, technological universities where you find good people with relatively fresh and smart brains and capable of building technology solutions. And then the company grew to the point where I decided that I needed to be close to our clients because at the moment we were working as what I would call providing the service was like a white label service, meaning that nobody knew our name. We didn't have a direct contract with the client. We worked through another integrator, another company that used to have a contract with our clients. And a future mentor of mine said that, Andrey, if you want to be a real business, you got to have a real relationships with your clients, meaning that you need to see their faces, you need to shake their hands, you need to kiss babies. Come to United States, just travel for a month and then see what it looks like. So I did. I bought my first ticket to New York. This is the city where I landed, and just very good experience of meeting people whom you work with. At the time, we used to communicate through Skype. The Zoom did not exist. Google Meet did not exist. Video conferences were, I would say, an unusual thing, but over time it became normal. So for me, coming to the United States, seeing the real people whom I work with and understanding that we need to be where our clients are in order to actually develop the business, this was the revelation, which ultimately moved me to United States. And I've been living happily here for the last, 12, 13 years. Oh my God, the time flies. So that's the brief story of how the company was born and how we are now in the United States, how Distillery is a US-based company.
Isn't it amazing that you can start a tech company for almost nothing and then build it up as long as you got boots on the ground, people working hard and putting in effort?
It's one of those businesses where the entrance level is so low that you can actually take whatever Google Chrome laptop and then start building.
Yeah, I can go back to, this is in the late 90s, early 2000s. Me and 2 friends that I went to college with as well, we started our own business doing, web development, and it was very basic, but, we built that and ran it for 7 years before selling it off to, competitors, and just out of us, using computers that we had in our dorm rooms, at the time, and starting out with something. And then when we graduated, just keep doing it for a few years, which was fun. Helped us gain a lot of experience. And, at the end of the day, we were making a living off of it, it was a fun little project. But, so as you mentioned that you kind of stopped coding and started working more on the people management side, which is a natural progression that a lot of developers and engineers kind of go through that path where, now they're working on building their people skills. And that's one of the things that a lot of people are, struggle with, and they have challenges, trying to lead people. But with me, I struggled with it at first for a while, but then I found that I loved it too. What are some of the challenges that you've had to kind of overcome and kind of learn through when it came to managing and leading people?
That's a very good question. So first of all, it did not come to me naturally as well. Not the skills that engineers have by default, and this is something that you have to work for. For me, I believe that the biggest challenge was to show empathy, meaning that I don't really have empathy for myself. If I make a mistake, I will, in my mind, somehow try to punish me, saying, "Well, you're not a good developer. Now you got to improve. You got to put an extra night to it." When it comes down to managing people, you can't do this. You have to have empathy, you have to have an understanding, and you have to have a compassion. So being a leader who knows that not everything will go right, and figuring out that people will do things differently than you would, is a very important thing to do. And differently doesn't mean better or worse. It literally means differently. And in many, many cases, it will be better than you could ever do. In some cases, rare cases, it will happen that people will do things that's not the way how you did, and it will end up being the wrong decision. But let people learn from their mistakes, recognize it, that once they learned, the next time they will be doing this, they will now do it much better. So for me, trying to let go the feeling that I can do it myself and better was the most difficult thing that I had to go through. letting people do their own mistakes, realizing that you can't do everything that the growing team is now handles. And once I'm a strong believer that the pizza rule still works. You can manage everyone when you can eat one pizza, when you can share one pizza at the same table, right? Once you go to 2 pizzas or 10 pizzas team, that's it. You gotta go. You gotta let it go and hire the managers whom you will trust and who will make sure that your word gets from the top down to the bottom. So, and sorry, let me step back and take one more.
Let me dig into that real quick before we step back. I love that pizza rule, and I think that's fantastic. But when you talk about letting go and having empathy, and different, it's not better or worse, it's just different. I think that is a very common problem that we struggle with on the empathetic side. Like for me, I really struggled with it, and it took I had a mentor. I got lucky and got a mentor that was in sales, not in technology, and he taught me a lot about the things that I was doing wrong. And I remember I had 2 people quit on the same day, and this was when I had a team of 6. So a third of my team is gone in one day, which and I was trying to play it off as well, they both went to the banks pay better, blah blah blah. And he's like, no, they quit because of you. You don't show that you care. You're always in there micromanaging. You're not letting people make their own decisions. And it was all these things where I realized that I need to let go. I need to think about things from their perspective and not my perspective. And it was just like that, light bulb moment that popped on that I had to understand. And I feel like we've all had that kind of thing. And that seems like what you're talking about here. You had to learn those rules too, kind of learn how to do those things and think that those ways. And, I think that's just a common thing that we all have.
Absolutely.
So, sorry to interrupt you. Where were we going?
Well, let me comment on what you said, Josh.
Okay.
First of all, lucky you that you experienced this early when your team was only 6. It's a painful experience when you have a team of 6 and third of your team quits. Mm-hmm. I had similar, maybe smaller in size, but the scale in terms of number of people was actually larger because our team was bigger. And learning that this is because of me, not because of them, was a very humbling experience. But what I was going to say that realizing also that people see you as I associate myself with a business almost too much, to a fault. I am Distillery. I've been working on this company, in this company, with this company for over a decade. And I can't really think outside of this box. And this is really imprinted in my memory. Versus, look at someone who joined your team even 5 years ago. They're part of a company. They still don't have the same mentality. They don't say us as much as I do. They don't say it's my company. They don't say it's our company, maybe to the extent that I would like them to be. Mm-hmm. And realizing that this is normal. Not everyone will marry themselves to your business and put all the stripes and colors and wear the swag all the time. It's that's okay. That's normal because people have their own lives and doesn't necessarily have to be full dedication, 110% to your business. So I think that this is something that a lot of founders fail to realize. I was one of them, trust me, until you have a smart person, a mentor, advisor who is coming and saying, look, this is how you see it, but try to look this with the eyes of someone who is outside, and it looks different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, do you have any techniques or tips that you would have to give somebody that advice, looking things from the outside? Because I know for me, even just being a manager, when you get promoted from individual contributor to manager, it's your team now. Now you feel like you own this team, and you again, do what you said. Stop saying, start saying we and us and ours a lot more than you did before. How do we step back and kind of think things from other people's perspective and see things from their perspective? What are some tips that you have for people?
Wow, that is a good question and a difficult one. In terms of tips, I ultimately believe that you have to separate work. Basically, with the work-life balance has to exist, and you cannot outstep the boundaries. Mm-hmm. That if work needs to be done, it will have to be done, and you have to be metrics driven. You have to be following the rules of the company. But on the other side, do not stop being a human. Things happen. Yes. Life gets in a way, and being a good manager means you realize that it will happen, and you have to find a balance for your employees, for your team, that somehow we need to get the work done, but also I do care about you. I understand that you're human, you're people, and you have your own lives. I think finding this balance is, whoever does this, I want to learn from this person. I am at maybe 70% successful at this.
Yeah.
I wish to be higher than that.
I think you're probably better than I am right now. And I've tried all different kind of things to try to, get it. And it's just a work in progress. It's one of those things you have to constantly like try and try, and one of the things that I do before I have like a one-on-one with my team, I try to book extra time before the one-on-one and try to think like, what is this person going through today? Like what is, do they have a sick parent? Do they have kids? Do they have to take their kids to school? If they're anything like my kids, they were probably screaming in the car, getting on their nerves this morning, or difficult to get ready, or losing socks. Who knows what's going on? What does that do to their mindset coming into the office? Are they looking for another job? Are they happy here? Are they frustrated with everything? Try to think through that before I have the conversation to put me in that mindset to address things properly.
There are some other techniques that I was going through executive MBA program at Anderson, finished last year. And one thing that they taught us is to just use the outside test assessment. We did Corn Ferry. By no means I'm going to give them any advertisement, but that was a good test to actually get the results back, professionally assessed, and understand. It's like, I was looking at my results and was like, who is this jerk who have no flexibility? Andrey, is it you? And it looks like it was me. So I was actually put in the position to, I need to start work on being more flexible with my team, with myself even, in order to produce better results, because the inflexibility was holding me back. So one thing that you can do as a manager is to go and see the outside assessment. They are usually somewhat inexpensive, and actually read the results and try to compare with what you think you are versus what the results of the test tell you. For me, one of the areas was a pretty relation. I thought that, well, I can bend here, I can accommodate here. It's like, my test says I'm inflexible as hell. So quite a learning experience.
Yeah. And I find that those doing those things, even if you disagree with them, they're eye-opening to see the perspective that they provide, right? Because it's somebody else's perspective. And, a lot of times I'll take one of those and then I'll ask one of my, direct reports, hey, I got this results. Is this accurate? And hopefully they're honest enough to tell me like, yeah, you really do suck at that. And then look at what are the recommendations to fix those things. Like what are some things that I can do differently? And, having a good team that you can kind of open up to and talk about that is obviously very helpful. How have you seen like your role change as the company has grown? Because Distillery is now, much larger than it was when you had $5,000 and we're working with two friends.
Oh, we have several hundred people now. Nothing to brag about in our businesses. There are big companies who have thousands of people, but we're no longer a small business. And for me, the responsibility from just managing the team, being the CEO and the single C-level person in the company, turned into, well, now I manage executive team, plus managing the board, actually creating the board first, the board of directors, and then manage them, meeting with them, providing reports, asking for advice, seeking for help, implementing the suggestions. That became a more or less full-time job. And the strategy has always been there and will always be there, just getting corrections sometimes when we see that the market is going into a different angle. All right, should we follow or should we stay the course? Deciding this, getting the feedback from the team as well, implementing things that people say that we need to. That's now my full-time job. I am no longer selling. I used to carry sales back, right? And sometimes I still would bring referrals to the business. I still would do this. I run all hands, which means that this is my chance to connect with the entirety of the organization. But more and more, this is talking to several key people in our organization, plus the board who has responsibility to lead Distillery to the path that we want to walk, and keep refreshing memories of our employees on what Distillery culture is, what our goal is, and how do we get to this goal. I do this As a matter of fact, we have all hands coming very soon. And one of the line items out of 5 that I will be discussing is just refresher on the distillery vision. I never want anyone in our company to forget why we're here and how do we get to where we need to be.
Oh, I love that. And, I do something with my team the same way, where we have quarterly, meetings, and every time I go through what I call as our code, our tech code, which is our behaviors, our cultural norms, the things that we are, what we believe. One of them is like act like an owner, in all your decisions, pretend like you own this place. Like, and what would you do? And make the complex seem simple. Talk in simple terms. Don't confuse people. Just basic things like that I remind them every time. And I'm sure they're getting tired of hearing it, but and I make sure I tell people it's not just for you. It's to remind myself too. I need to be reminded as well. So sharing this why we're here and what we're doing and what our goal and vision is as much for the benefit of the individual contributors as it is for the executives as well. And I think that's an important thing to continue to share. I think that's awesome. When you're developing a vision and a culture for your company, what are some of the key aspects that you look for?
Wow. First of all, it's been several years since we updated the vision, but developing, let's talk about the vision and then let's touch culture. Vision is, I would say, rather simple, meaning that you know what you want to accomplish, and this is what creates your vision. This is what drives you. This is what you wake up and it's like, if I have nothing today, I will be working on this. If I have a full working day, I will still have a time to work on my vision. I need to move us forward inch by inch and just get into the place where we all need to be. That we did a refresher on the vision because the company changed. We had experience. We were affected by some political events in Eastern Europe. We had to cut down a third of our business, so that was definitely uneasy. And then focusing on Latin America, delivering centers in Mexico, Argentina, Peru, that changed the vision. We became less of a global company, but now more of a nearshore than we were offshore, and that scaled down our vision. However, that didn't change to where we are going. We still want to be a certain size companies, work with a certain size clients, and deliver the best-in-class software to them. Now, the culture is a work in progress every single day. And I'm not exaggerating right now. Why? Because first of all, being a company with distributed workforce, I believe that it creates more complications, meaning that we have United States presence. This is US culture. And, it's a little bit more corporate, a little bit more, put up, you have a button down short and such. Now, and by the way, the majority of the team in the United States, sales, marketing, client partners. You go to office in Mexico, you walk into the grounds where it's a little bit more relaxed. We have engineers there by and large. It's 90% of our population. We're engineers-driven company. And then it's a little bit of a different culture. Then you fly down south to Buenos Aires. It's a little bit of a different culture. They're more European. They have a little bit better love for steaks than Mexico does. But the important piece is, how do we create the culture that is the same for the company or as close as it can be? We have weekly calls with our HR team, which I believe is what's the word I'm looking for? When they transfer the culture from executives down to the entire organization. And one question that we have on the agenda, it's repeating agenda and says, what do we do in order to bring companies together? Yeah. How do we achieve this? Every time when we find something that is slightly different, we're looking into optimization and seeing how can we make it even better. So we started doing a common Slack channel for entirety of the team. And obviously the language we have to use is English because, well, it's a common language. It's not the mother language that a majority of our team speaks because they're Spanish speakers. And for that, we have a Spanish-speaking channel, actually Spanish-speaking LinkedIn, that creates their own microculture. But also think about this, John. For us, the problem comes when we have worked with clients for, say, 2-3 years. It creates a subculture for the client team because our engineers work with clients 8 hours a day and they work with Distillery, several meetings a month. It's like, oh, wow, now you guys have clients culture more than Distillery culture. So our next iteration is how do we break those little silos that we created ourselves by giving engineers to our clients and bring these engineers back and feel them like Distillery, not feel them like here's the client team, here's client 2 team, here's client 3 team. So work on culture is a daily job for myself, for our operations, for our HR team, and making sure that we always bring this back. How do we make a one company that's called Distillery, not Distillery United States, not Distillery Mexico, not Distillery Argentina, and not Distillery Client 1, Distillery Client 2, and Distillery Client 3. Yeah. That's a job. That's a full-time job.
Yeah, it sounds like, even in, companies that have a tech group that only work within their company, they still develop subcultures based off of, the projects that they're working on, the teams. Maybe you're part of this one Scrum team and they have a different culture. Maybe those Scrum Masters are a little bit more, relaxed and he likes to do icebreakers every stand-up or something like that. And another team, they don't do icebreakers. They just get right down to business and they're more, professional and, they develop their own cultures too. And that is a challenge that all executives and leaders, the higher up you go in an organization have to kind of manage that. And how do you because if you want to create, Distillery's culture and just that one culture that everybody's part of, which you need, that's helpful. How do you do that without affecting that relationship that you have with the client and those engineers that, when they go back in and they're working with that client, basically full time, how do they not interject the culture in there?
Oh, absolutely. I think I might have created an impression that we're fighting the client's culture. It's like we don't. We actually embrace it and support it.
Yeah.
We encourage clients to, once you finish the project, send the t-shirts. We would love this team to wear your t-shirts for a month, and they will be probably wearing them for way more longer. We have people, they're public clients of ours you can find on our website. So we have people wearing eBay t-shirts. We have people wearing another big company that I probably can't mention, but it's an energy drink, wearing their t-shirts. It's like, great, we love it. So we actually bring clients. This year we brought clients to Mexico City, going out with this team, only this team, because there is no reason and actually no financial possibility to bring the entire office. Like, let's take this team, let's take this client and go for a taco experience. In Argentina, we brought clients to Argentina all the way from Los Angeles. It was 14-hour flight, but it was so worth it. They went through empanada making experience. And now there is an amazing culture within this project that we would like to embrace and support and keep it going. But again, I will say this, it is important to bring this culture back and make it also part of Distillery. So we don't fight the cultures, we support and embrace the subcultures within the organization. If you have a good external encompassing culture within the company, those microcultures within the organizations, I think they're good.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, embracing that and maybe pulling the good things that you can get out of that culture and bring it up to yours as well is really cool. And I like the thing you're talking about having, special things just for each individual, group or team to kind of help build their own teamwork and their own relationships. I think that's very important and very helpful as well. Going back to the growth of Distillery and where you guys have come from and obviously where you are now, where do you see yourself going in the future? What's the next thing? What are kind of some of the cool projects that you guys are working on today?
At the expense of sounding like everyone else right now, it's Gen AI. We're all on it. Tomorrow I'm flying to San Francisco for TED AI conference. We're actually sponsoring it. So we'll have a chance to speak and mingle and connect with a lot of people. And if you go to San Francisco today, out of 50 billboards, 49 of them will be about Gen AI on one of the companies that is doing Gen AI. Well, wow. So are we, meaning that within Distillery, we launched Distillery AI Lab. We launched, we're building, haven't launched it to the public yet, Distillery AI consultant that basically it's an AI agent where you upload, in our case, it's this demand support function where you upload all the contracts to W's and you can ask any questions against it, say, when is the contract over, what's the burn down chart for this? And this is just one of the things that it does. It obviously does a lot more, shows the team compositions, the ideal scenario, how we staff the teams and such and such. So that's the big change and the big shift. And also, what we're doing right now is to try to identify and figure out what the future will look like for companies like ours. I can tell you that I've been to a conference where a lot of professional services CEOs were at the same table. It was a dinner organized by private equities where they put together people from the same industry and let's just exchange ideas. Let's compare notes. I know at least two industries that are scared right now. One of them is lawyers because they saw that normal people like you and I no longer ask to review a contract with real estate agent because now ChatGPT can do this for you and do this reasonably well. When you're talking about corporate law, it's probably I would still not trust ChatGPT and will still go and seek professional help. And the second one is a design company that was doing like cookie cutter design, more or less, like widgets and such. Also something that now Gen AI does reasonably well. And for the regular users, there is like B2C segment is basically closing down. B2B will still be here. So for us, we're trying to understand what it looks like for us. And we're seeing the same direction where one of our departments, product department, for example, is now not seeing enough demand, not seeing the same demand as it used to be, because even internally, we understand that before generating the product requirements for this specific piece of code was 6 hours. You have to actually sit down and write it. Now it's 2 minutes. Well, if you have good prompt writing skills. Meaning that the same for our clients, they no longer need 6 hours of our work, they need 2 minutes of our work. Obviously, you need a smart human to be able to create those prompts. So the next iteration for Distillery, going through, and I've gone through being database development company, being mobile development company, being app development company, then being everything development company. The next generation is how do we fit into new Gen AI world? And looks like we're fitting quite well right now because we got in it quite early. We started doing this last year and see how we can benefit from this and how our clients ultimately will be benefiting from this. And we're helping them. So that's what future holds for us.
Yeah, awesome. And it's been a great conversation. How can people connect with you online, learn more about what you're doing with Distillery, and maybe check out some of the events that you guys put on?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, our website is quite easy to find. It's literally distillery.com. We have nothing to do with alcohol. It's just a cool name. Came from the early days when we were taking ideas and distilling them down into good components and creating mobile apps out of these ideas. So that's the company, distillery.com. And then my name is Andrey Kudievskiy. If you can spell it, I'm the only person on LinkedIn with such name. I can guarantee you that you will not find anyone else.
Yeah, awesome. I'll link that too in the show notes too at geekleader.com so people can go there and click through to your LinkedIn and to the website. Again, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the conversation a lot.
Thanks so much, John. Appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Please go to geekleader.com to learn more about what this guest is up to. Click on their links and connect with them online. I would also greatly appreciate it if you could leave me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. And make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. And if you feel so inclined, you can leave me a tip by going to geekleader.com/tip.